Jacksonville Jaguars fans, welcome into Duval Daily, presented by GenJag.com. I'm Jordan DeLugo. Thanks so much for being here Monday, October 13th, hopefully for the Jaguars and Jaguars fans, I should say. The doom and gloom can kind of subside now that we're about 24 hours, post-loss to Seattle. The Jaguars are still 4-2. They're still in a great spot. They're still coached by a really good coach on both sides of the ball, in my opinion. They got a lot of good going on. So, let's try to calm down. Move forward. Yes, we can still talk about what happened against the Seahawks and analyze things with what's going wrong with the Jaguars and the two losses they've had so far this year. But in both of those losses, they were in it at the very end. So let's not overreact to things. But there are some news items that we need to touch on today that have to do with the Jaguars' injury situations, their Week 7 opponent, their injury situation, the Rams, a division rival firing a head coach. We're going to dive into all of that right here, right now. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. And by the way, if you did not notice after last video as a follow-up, no, there's nothing wrong with Gervon Dexter. He's not injured. He's not in the doghouse. I commented that he hadn't played since Week 4. Well, the Bears haven't played since Week 4. They had a bye week in Week 5, and then they have Monday Night Football tonight. So if I had any brain activity going on today, I would have been able to notice that much quicker than I did. But I apologize for that. So I do still think, looking at the defensive tackle spot, go back, check that video out if you're interested in some players that I think could make sense for the Jaguars. But looking at the news and the updates right here, right now, Devin Lloyd has a calf injury that is being evaluated by the Jaguars, basically as we speak, or, this afternoon. The Jaguars are flying to London tonight. And when asked about this calf injury, head coach Liam Cohen didn't know yet whether or not Devin Lloyd was going to be flying with the team to London. They're going over there early. They're trying to get themselves kind of on that London time clock well in advance of the game, whereas the Rams are going to be staying in Baltimore. They just played against the Ravens. They're going to be staying in the Baltimore area and then flying over the day before the game, I believe. So two completely opposite kind of strategies. Obviously, the Rams have a different situation with being a West Coast team, but they're staying on the East Coast until right before the game, day before the game, I think, and they're going to approach it that way, whereas the Jaguars, they're getting over there early. They're going to try to use the time for bonding and kind of the team bonding over the course of the next several days and try to come together and be able to play much more physical and execute at a higher level pre and post snap, mental, physical issues, all that stuff, try to get past it. But Devin Lloyd, we don't know whether or not he will be there. You hope he is, because, the guy was the AFC Defensive Player of the Month. Really, really important football player for the Jaguars. Quentin Morris also has an adductor injury that they're evaluating, so don't know what's going to happen with him either. He's their third tight end right now with Brenton Strange on IR. So you talk about Brenton Strange being down. If Quentin Morris is also down, then you're down to two tight ends on the roster. Hunter Long, who did not have a great game against the Seahawks, but he can bounce back. He's shown the ability to play in this league, and Johnny Munt as well. So would they make a move potentially? I don't know. You're traveling to London. Are you going to fly a guy over midweek? I don't know how that would work, really. I have no clue. But I do know they do have at least two tight ends if Quentin Morris does go down or is down. That can play. If there's an injury at the spot, I don't know another injury at the spot, I don't know what you do. That remains to be seen. Devin Lloyd, the calf injury, if he is down for this week, the good news is the Jaguars have the bye right after, so there's some time to potentially get ready. Hopefully it wouldn't be like an IR situation or like a month-long calf. We've seen a lot of calf injuries that can kind of linger. So you don't know yet. There's just no update yet on that. And then if he is down, Ventrell Miller came in and played well, and we've seen him play well. I would expect him to play pretty good ball in this system. I think that he can do some of the things Devin Lloyd was doing. He can definitely play the run defense. He can definitely attack as a blitzer. I don't think he has the same amount of length or necessarily just physical ability and coverage, size, but he can do some things for you and play some decent ball. So that is one position the Jaguars have some depth at, real good experienced depth at, in my opinion, and Ventrell Miller. I think he's a good player. So want Devin Lloyd back, obviously, but they do have a decent situation there. Puka Nacua, he has an ankle injury, and according to NFL Network, he is not likely to play. It's likely to keep him out for some time against the Jaguars. On Sunday, he's unlikely to play, so that's big, real big. No Puka Nacua to deal with. The Jaguars have struggled dealing with star receivers, and the Rams, Puka Nacua, he is a different sort of star receiver than some of the other guys that they have faced so far. Big, physical, violent football player, but not having him would be a real loss for the Rams offense. Now they do still have Devontae Adams and a lot of other guys who can step up, like Jordan Whittington. He can step up and do some of those things, and they've got their young tight end Terrence Ferguson who can step up and do some things, and Tyler, like, they are not going to be like, woe is me, we don't have Puka Nacua, we can't execute our offense now. That's not going to be the case, and that wasn't the case for the Seahawks defense this past week. Without three of their best defensive backs, they said, well, that's all right. We don't need our best defensive backs because our defensive front's going to kick your ass all game. That's exactly what they did. So not having Puka Nacua would be huge for the game plan. It would be huge for the Jaguars just not facing the most productive receiver in football right now. But it would not be some guarantee of winning at all by any stretch of the imagination. Nacua is a great player. He is the driver of their offense right now, but they can get things done without him. I can promise you that. And Murray's getting excited about thinking about Puka Nacua not playing. But Puka is just unbelievable player. And without him, they would have to adjust their plan a lot because he's leading the NFL in receiving, all that stuff. He lines up 40% in the slot. So, again, more in the slot than some of the other stars that they have faced so far this year. But, he's not Jamar Chase on the outside. He's not the same type of player as a Jackson Smith-Njigba who has a little bit of physicality to him, but he's much more of a, route runner. Jackson Smith-Njigba is like just unbelievable feet and quickness and agility, whereas Puka is more of a monster type of receiver. But it certainly appears he's not going to be playing in this game. That's big news. It absolutely is. Final piece of news, moving on from the injuries, is the Titans have fired head coach Brian Callahan, and the cycle just continues. This is a franchise that it's been a while. They have gone on this cycle of hire GM, then you fire the head coach, then you fire the GM, then you fire the head coach. And none of it's together. None of it is aligned. There has not been alignment in that organization from the general manager spot to the head coach spot in a long time, and the cycle continues. That's got to be I know it's frustrating as hell because I've seen it in Jacksonville before. You now have alignment in Jacksonville for the first time since I guess 2017. There was some sort of alignment, although Dave Caldwell was still the GM, but Tom Coughlin was kind of running the show at that point, and Doug Marrone was his guy. So, there was some alignment there, but it was still weird because Dave Caldwell was still in the mix. So it's like, very thankful to have alignment in Jacksonville between, two really brilliant and also, Tony Baselli. But, brilliant GM in my opinion. Head coach is fantastic. I think that those two guys are real bright and communicate effectively, have very, similar visions for what they want, and feel for the Titans, especially with Mike Vrabel coming to town with his new shiny quarterback, Drake May. How poetic is that? But hey, does this make the Titans, more likely to potentially trade a defensive tackle superstar to a division rival? I don't know. Mike Borgonzi's running the show over there in Tennessee as the general manager. He didn't draft Jeffrey Simmons. He didn't sign Jeffrey Simmons to an extension. Now, if I was him and I was trying to build a consistent winner, Jeffrey Simmons would be who I'm trying to build around. But who knows? I mean, he's seeing how Chris Jones can impact a defense. I think Jeffrey Simmons is playing damn good football right now. But who knows? Maybe the Jags could try to swing an in-division trade. They've made a couple in inter-division trades already. Maybe they could do it again. I don't know. But you've also got, I know this sounds crazy, but the Jags, Walker Little ain't been playing great. Maybe there's some tackles they could look at. I don't know. Did Mike Borgonzi draft J.C. Latham? How's J.C. Latham playing? I haven't watched the Titans this year a whole lot to know. Let's check out what does PFF say about J.C. Latham. Hasn't played much and hasn't played well, so I don't know. They also signed Dan Moore Jr. this offseason. Look, I don't know how the Jaguars feel about Walker Little. He's been up and down. I mean, he's had 3 good games and 3 bad games so far this year. 2 of the 3 bad games he's lost, or they've lost. I say he's lost. I mean, he's been a big part of the reason they lost. I mean, he was atrocious against the Seahawks. By far the worst Jaguars offensive lineman. He was getting beat up by everybody. And then atrocious against Trey Hendrickson and the Bengals. Really bad against the Texans as well. But fortunately, against the Texans, the rest of the offensive line was getting the job done. And the offense, it was still not a high-scoring game, but they kind of did what they needed to do. And then against the Bengals, the rest of the offensive line did well in that one too for the most part, but you just had an insane amount of drops. But yeah, 2 of the 3 games where Walker Little has struggled, the Jaguars have lost. When he's been good, they've been good. Left tackle is a pretty important position. They need him to shape up in a big, big way. And this upcoming week, check the Rams depth chart. Who do they have at edge? Somebody who the Jaguars' current general manager pounded the table for. Yeah, Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, Kobe Turner, Byron Young, Josiah Stewart. I thought the Jaguars would love Josiah Stewart. They probably did like him, but he ended up going in the 3rd round of the Rams. It's not getting any easier. I mean, maybe the Seahawks are probably a more physically violent defensive front overall. But I think, Jared Verse can bring as much violence as anyone. He's an edge as compared to, Byron Murphy and Leonard Williams. Those guys are just monsters in the middle. But that offensive line as a whole was really bad. Like, I shouldn't just put that one against the Seahawks on Walker Little because that offensive line struggled. The whole thing did with the physicality and the stunts and the games up front. So they've got to get it together big time against the Rams or they're going to be sitting at 4-3, which, is not a position that you can't work with. But you don't want to lose 2 straight going into the bye. That's a sour taste in your mouth. That'll do it for this one. Just some updates and some thoughts. Really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Y'all have a good one.